Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time of day you're watching this. As you can tell, because I am an ambassador of the towel gang, I have a towel up in my window this morning. The reason is the sun's right coming right through the window right now, and the only way I don't have curtains that come across the front, so I put a towel up to block the sun. But today I got a good video for you, and it is how much have I spent in 90 days with the new law that went into effect January 1st for operating in Connecticut. It is the Connecticut Highway Use Fee. How much have I spent as an owner operator in 2023 in 90 days operating now and then in Connecticut? So the way I operate my business is I do end up doing work in Connecticut. I usually haul freight from the Midwest, whether it's Minnesota or Wisconsin, out to the East Coast. And Connecticut is a state that I do go into a couple of times a month. Usually twice a month I'm in Connecticut. I have a post-it note up here talking about how many miles I've driven, because now I have to pay to use the highways with that new highway use fee that they charge trucking companies to operate within Connecticut. So yeah, let's talk about the last 90 days. This is January through March. And what I did is, like I said, I have post-it notes up here that talks about the loads that I brought into Connecticut, how many miles I drove, and how much I actually have to pay the state of Connecticut. Well, in January, I did 2 trips into Connecticut. The loads paid me $2,100. That's both loads combined together. I had a total of 192 miles driven in the state of Connecticut. In February, I brought 2 loads into Connecticut as well for a total of $1,975.50. I had more miles in February than I did in January in Connecticut. I drove a total of 225 miles in the month of February in Connecticut. Now let's talk about March. March, I grossed $1,825 driving into Connecticut. Usually I take loads from, I'll put this out there too, like Pennsylvania or New Jersey up into Connecticut. So the loads are, around 1,000 to anywhere from $900 to $1,000 to go into Connecticut from that area. So in March, I had a total of 235 miles in Connecticut. Now, I have never brought a load to Connecticut, unloaded, and then reloaded in Connecticut. I usually load in Massachusetts after a load in Connecticut. I've never picked a load up from Connecticut, only deliveries. So let's talk about each month. Well, the highway use tax is 10 cents per mile, whether you're loaded or empty, to operate in the state of Connecticut. So back in January, I had 192 miles. So if you take 192 miles multiplied by 10 cents, you get a total of the fee cost to me of $19.25. In February, I had more miles in Connecticut, 225 miles. So once again, take 225, multiply that by 10 cents. I had to pay Connecticut $22.50. Now let's talk about March. March was the highest amount of miles that I have driven in Connecticut. I drove 235 miles. So take 235, multiply that by 10 cents per mile. I owed the state of Connecticut $23.50. All right, let's break down the 90-day gross earnings operating into Connecticut, driving into Connecticut. Let's break down the total miles that I have driven in Connecticut in 90 days and what it's cost me. Well, I have hauled 6 loads into Connecticut since January 1st with a gross revenue of $5,950 with loads that bring me into Connecticut. I have driven a total of 652 miles in 90 days in the state of Connecticut. The highway use fee that I have to pay the state of Connecticut for driving 652 miles, now remember, it's only 10 cents a mile, is $65.25 in 90 days. Do I like paying tolls or paying fees to use the highways? No, I don't. But you know what? If it costs me only $65.25 to travel 652 miles in a state and have a gross revenue of $5,950 on 6 loads, I am going to pay that highway use fee every time. So, do I think the highway use fee in Connecticut is out of line or so expensive that I'm not going to operate in the state of Connecticut? Nope. I'm going to continue to bring loads up into Connecticut when I have the opportunity to, and hopefully you do too. I'm not afraid of paying a little bit of money to generate a lot of money. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this short video. Until next time, you know what it is. Keep on trucking.